In this video, my girlfriend and I visit Koyasan, a Buddhist temple settlement outside of Osaka, Japan. We stay with Buddhist monks, visit Japan's largest cemetery, and learn about the history of Shingon Buddhism. Hope you enjoy. Even though it's a travel day, you gotta keep a fresh roll loaded in the camera just in case. Never know when you might come across a nice looking moment. The beacon of happiness. Ooh, Pokemon boss might have to be the one today. Oh, it's hot. Let's go. Evolved boss. It's another day. It's another boss. A new one. I haven't tried this one yet. They all are a little bit different, but they all get the job done. Yeah, it's just pure. No, this one's this one's less milky than that other one we had yesterday. But it's hot, right out of the vending machine. It's just a little can of premium, good, no nonsense coffee, no Chemex, no French press nonsense. Less than $1, it's all you need.
A warm drink is so good right now.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I got a cold coffee.
I just love that you can go up to a vending machine like this and get a warm drink out of it. It's so nice. Something so satisfying about putting the ticket in that machine and then just it pops up and you grab it.
Yeah, I'm sad when we put it in and it doesn't come back out.
I know. Finally out in the countryside and it looks absolutely beautiful. Could definitely see another Japan trip in my future that just consists of visiting small countryside towns here, because this is right up my alley. It's cruising into these towns via train and spending some time in each one, taking photos and stuff. Sounds like a pretty sweet time. We have exited the train at Gokurakubashi Station, I believe it's called. Beautiful ride through the mountains up here. And now we are boarding a cable car. It is going to take us up closer to Koyasan and then a bus from there to where we are staying. It's probably hard to tell on camera, but this slope that we're ascending is incredibly steep. If this cable snaps, it's going to be a quick ride back down.
It's temples and surrounded by nature.
Okay, we have finally made it to Koyasan. This is where we are spending the evening. Should get a nice, authentic Shingon Buddhist experience here. Very zen, very peaceful. I mean, you really don't need much more than this, people. A floor, a small table, a nice little coffee area, closet. I mean, this is all you need, really. So Mount Koya, or Koyasan as it's referred to here in Japan, is about 2 hours south of Osaka in the mountains of the Wakayama Prefecture here in Japan. And it was first settled in 819 by a monk named Kobodashi. Might have been 816, I've seen varying reports. But somewhere around the year 819, this place was first settled. And Kobodashi was a monk who in 804 traveled to China to study a specific type of Buddhism called Esoteric Buddhism. And when he returned to Japan after studying this type of Buddhism, he settled here in Koyasan and started Shingon Buddhism, which is now a major school of Japanese Buddhism. And although I'm not much of a religious person anymore, consider myself more agnostic than anything else, I still find this stuff fascinating, and I'm excited to spend the night here to hopefully learn a little bit more about Shingon Buddhism and see how the monks go about their practice here in Koyasan. And because of all this, Koyasan is referred to as the headquarters of the entire world for Shingon Buddhism. Well, we haven't seen one of these yet. A ramen vending machine. Koyasan of all places. I'm pretty sure these don't come out like ready to go. I'm pretty sure you gotta like add it to hot water or something, but 880 yen, that's like $5. Get yourself some ramen. The size of this temple is absurd. So this bell, the one that they're currently ringing, was made in 1547. You can see they use a giant battery ram type contraption to swing it into the bell in order to ring it. Alicia and I are now walking into one of the most important sites here in Koyasan, which is the Okunoin Cemetery. This cemetery has over 200,000 above ground tombs or towers, as you can see behind me, and another 300,000 remains below ground, making it the country's largest cemetery. We walked it last night on a night tour, and it was really an incredible experience. Our guide was telling us all about the history of this place, the significance of it, and it's definitely one of the main sites you have to see if you come to Koyasan. A lot of the trees here are 400 to 600 years old, with some of the oldest ones being around 900 years old, and they definitely encompass the pathway of this cemetery.
And they house the flying squirrels.
That's Alicia's fun fact. They house the flying squirrels, which we haven't seen yet, but
We heard them last
we
night.
did hear them.
I forget the number of years, but there's like 2 lanterns they say have been burning for like hundreds of years and have not gone out.
Oh wow.
So maybe these are them.
So these lanterns, you'll see that on the sides of them there's a moon phase, and on each of the lanterns the moon phase is slightly different, and what that is said to represent is that the Kobodashi believed that the mind, you know, when talking about the shape of the mind, that it is like a moon. It's always changing. It's always in a shadow, out of a shadow. It's either full or dull. It's in a constant state of change. And so all the moon phases on the sides of these lanterns are changing, and that's kind of a representation of the belief that, you know, as humans, our mindset's always changing, and we're always in a constant state of evolution. So
But at our base, our mind is always whole and pure, like the full moon, essentially, is what he's saying.
So at the core, always full, but the reality is that the mind is always changing. So kind of a cool little metaphor there. So hopefully you can see just how far back a lot of these tombs go. There's, you know, burial sites way back in the forest, and to walk this whole path, I mean, it's probably 25-30 minutes one way, close to it maybe, and it's very, very pretty at night because it's all lit up with these lanterns on the side of the path. So I came back out after we did the night tour last night by myself with my camera and did some long exposures, which hopefully, I'm really hoping they turned out okay, because it looked really, really cool when I was here and this was all lit up. But yeah, the lighting conditions were a little bit interesting, so hopefully I got some good exposures. But yeah, both in the daytime and at night, I think you got to see it, and on both occasions. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So these towers are constructed in a way to represent the elements that make up the universe: earth, water, fire, wind, and space. And then there's another component, which is the mind, which is what I kind of touched on earlier about the moon phases and the lanterns, how it's always pure at the core, but it's always changing. And they made a really cool comparison to the mind and how space affects the mind. So all these components play a key role with one another. And, you know, they said that the mind is always changing based on the space that it's in. So if you're in a dirty environment, you know, that tends to make your mind not as pure. That's why the Buddhist monks are big on cleaning and being in a pure space, being out in nature. It's all very important because the space that you're in plays a vital role in the mindset that you have. Our guide last night was telling us that some of these larger towers, a lot of them are old samurais, because after they passed, they still wanted to be represented in a very powerful way. So a lot of these bigger towers are likely samurais from various samurai clans. So this temple here at about the midway point is the temple of the sweating Buddha, and they say that if you come here when you're suffering or having a hard time with something, you sweat. So you come here and the sweating Buddha will help take off some of that pressure that you're dealing with, help share some of the suffering that you're having, and you can kind of come here and shed some of the heavy weight that you're facing off on the sweating Buddha. And also, very interesting little point, this is a well right here, and they say that if you look into the well and see your reflection, you're good. But if you look into the well and you can't see your reflection, you're going to die in 3 years. So
how deep is it? Like, there's no way you can see your reflection. Oh god, it's so deep. Oh, I see it.
Oh, I can see. Okay, I can see my reflection. That's good.
I think it just depends on how bright it is.
I know it depends on the sunlight and what time of day it is, but I was actually kind of nervous to do this, but I can see the reflection of my face in the well, so that is good news. Because they said last night that if you can't see the reflection of your face in the well, you're going to die in 3 years.
Imagine we look down there and we just can't see your face.
Neither of just my face, though. We could see your face. That'd be terrifying. But the way I was looking at it is, we ate the black egg at the top of the mountain in Hakone, so that added 7 years to our lives. So the minimum that we would have to live would be 7 years from now. So I wasn't too worried about it after I heard that. And right after our guide told us about the theory with the well, we walked just a little bit farther down this way to this set of stairs. There's 43 stairs here, and he said that if you trip, stumble, or fall on this set of stairs right here, you will also die in 3 years. So we were all very, very cautious walking up these steps, making sure to watch our footing and not stumble on this set of 43 stairs here. So if I can get through this set of stairs right here, and after seeing my reflection in the well, I think I'm in good shape. I think this trip to Japan might have really been beneficial for my health and well-being and lifespan. At the very end of this walk through the cemetery is Kobodashi's mausoleum, and it is said that when he was 60 years old, he walked into his own mausoleum and never came out. 90 years after he walked in to his mausoleum, a monk got access into the mausoleum. I'm not sure how, but he opened the gate, and it said that he saw Kobodashi in the same position that he was in 90 years ago, in a meditative state, but his hair and his beard were still growing. So it's believed that Kobodashi isn't actually dead, but rather in a eternal state of meditation. And you're not allowed to film in the mausoleum area, but we went inside last night, and it was a very cool environment to be in. Every single morning at 6 a.m. and 10:30 a.m., monks prepare a fresh meal for Kobodashi. And they said that it's not to provide him food, but rather the representation of freshness, of bringing in, a sense of freshness, a sense of fresh smells, because they believe that when people pass in Buddhism, that, they're obviously invisible and intangible, so it's important to offer them things that are also invisible and intangible, like freshness or fresh smells or the flame of a candle. So there's a bunch of lanterns all over the Mausoleum area, the temple that's back there. It's a very important way for people to honor those that have passed in Buddhism. Another intangible offering that's really significant is sutras. So the monks will just kind of sing sutras throughout the day, different points in the day, to honor those that have passed as well. Another story that our guide told us last night that I thought was interesting was that long ago there was a girl whose parents both passed, and she wanted to honor them by making a lantern, the flame inside, but she was poor and didn't have any money to make or buy a lantern, so she sold her hair, and it still wasn't enough to really create a nice lantern, but she got what she could out of it. And then there was another man, a rich man, who he made a lantern as well, and his was all nice and fancy, and he saw her lantern and kind of scoffed at her and laughed at her. And when the lanterns got hung up, a big wind gust came through the temple area and blew out all the candles except for the little girls. And he said that story represents how, in Buddhism, it's not about the money that you have or how wealthy you are or anything like that. It's about the purity of the thoughts in your mind and the intentions behind the actions that you have. So I thought that was a cool little story. So as I mentioned, I'm not a super religious person, but from what we've been learning about Buddhism and Shingon Buddhism during the time we've been in Koyasan here, it's very interesting and intriguing, and there's a lot of lessons that I think are good practices in your everyday life. One lesson that our guide told us last night was, how about in Buddhism there's so many lessons to be learned through hidden things in the world. There's a lot of takeaways just from things that you see out in nature or experiences that you have. A significant flower in Buddhism is the lotus flower, and that's because the lotus flower can bloom and grow out of a muddy and dirty environment and blossom into this beautiful flower. So our guide was telling us how, outside of the mausoleum at the end of the path, there's a bunch of statues of lotus flowers there, and that's kind of to represent how it's important to be able to grow into, somebody who's pure and has good intentions no matter the environment that you're accustomed to. And I thought that was pretty cool, and he just went on to say that there's a lot of lessons like that in life, and they're not always clear at first, but you can take away a lot of good meaning from different experiences that you have, or things that you see on a day-to-day basis out in the world. Alicia was saying that if she were to join a religion, it would probably be Buddhism. She aligns with a lot of what they believe in.
I just think it's a lot more positive than other religions that I've experienced, and I like that about it.
And even though Buddhism, they're big on the invisible and intangible things, it to me seems like it's a religion that I can actually grasp, at least the kind of core principles of there's always things to learn on a day-to-day basis based on what you see out in nature and in the world. And I liked a lot of what our guide was saying about how, at the core, our minds are always pure. They're always in a state of change, though, and that's okay. I don't know. It was a very insightful 18 hours here in Koyasan. I'm really glad that we were able to have this experience. All thanks to Alicia. She booked it all and thought it would be cool, and it definitely was cool. So yeah, it's really interesting learning a little bit more about Buddhism and the lessons that are important to the religion, the history of Koyasan, and the history of Kobodashi and his significance in Shingon Buddhism. I mean, he is the founder. He's the founder of Shingon Buddhism, which is a branch of Esoteric Buddhism, and then the founder of Koyasan as well. So very cool and insightful day we were able to spend here in Koyasan. You have a favorite part, Alicia? Favorite takeaway?
For me, I came here in 2017, and so just to come full circle and stand in the same places and learn the same things, but be in such a different era of my life and be with you was very cool.
Yeah, it's something that I feel like I wouldn't have really appreciated had I done this, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Just from a maturity level. I think it was really nice to do this experience at the current stage of my life, and being 28 years old as opposed to 22 years old. I was able to take away a lot of the lessons, I think, in a more positive way and just a more insightful way. They'll stick with me longer than they would have had I done this back in my tool bag years of 21 and 22 years old, or somewhere in there. So
That's how old I was.
yeah. All right, we are leaving the Okunoin Buddhist temple in Koyasan. It's gonna wrap up our time here at Mount Koya, and it was quite the time. Very interesting to see the perspective of a religion that I've never really explored that in depth before. And yeah, Koyasan's a really tranquil mountain town in the Wakayama prefecture of Japan. Highly recommend checking it out if you ever get the opportunity to. The Okunoin temple was wonderful, really nice people, and very hospitable, very knowledgeable. Don't have enough good things to say about the experience. Thanks, Alicia, for recommending it. And now we are off to Tokyo. We have a long, 5-hour travel day probably?
Maybe more, yeah.
6-hour travel day, who knows? Big travel day ahead of us. So thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.